You made it, welcome back, yeah. BEA, Beautiful Souls, Darktides Havoc mode is finally out. You wanted a hard game, well, this mode pretty much puts you at a disadvantage on practically everything. Once you get up to the 30s, my goodness, this is practically Auric Maelstrom on crack. When you play Havoc, you'll now start to ask the questions, how do I approach these gunners without having hundreds of bullet holes so my insides spill out? Instead of constantly asking, how do I approach women while having 5,000 hours in For Honor? That's a good looking question, Timmy. Well, you will be surprised on how difficult this will be. It'll make you feel like you're being punished for playing the game, in my opinion. Before you play Havoc though, you have to be level 30 at least with your character and complete any Maelstrom mission. If you complete the Maelstrom mission that is just a normal one, you get put in level 1. But if you complete the Auric Maelstrom mission, which completing that, you are jumped up all the way to level 16. And level 16 is when things get a little bit more difficult, but in my opinion, level 16 kind of feels like level 4 Maelstrom or just level 5 Maelstrom with no modifiers. It's kind of insane. Maybe it's just me, but you guys will let me know because it feels very easy. But once you get up to level 30s, that's when it starts becoming a bit of a challenge, and you'll actually have to use your noggin unless you're an Ogi main. Let's play slow. Okay, never mind. I said play slow here. What the fudge happened here, bro? You just jumped right in front of a shotgun bullet.
Correct, I did.
Because without a good team, you're pretty much going to have a horrible time. Now, granted, this game does allow you to use the looking for group system. You can't play this solo. I repeat, you just cannot play this solo. Playing this solo means that unfortunately, people are going to rage quit and people are just going to leave right afterwards as soon as they die, because this is a challenge. This is for the veterans out there. You can't really play this in quick play. I'm sure some of you guys do have success, but you have to be really picky. You can't just invite level 30s like I did, because as soon as you do that, they're going to leave within the first death, and it's just not okay, and there's nobody else that will join you, unfortunately. You're going to be all alone, and there's just no way that you can beat the game afterwards. You're stuck with the bot. All right, let me just check your builds first. Okay. Carapace, Flak, okay. Carapace unyielding. And so you have to figure out what team comps you want to do. There's a lot of crazy modifiers that make this game incredibly hard. Let's just quickly go over it. Toughness, grace period. This is probably the most detrimental modifier they could have added, because what this does is that when your toughness is broken, you have 1 second of 90% reduced damage. This makes it so that when you're getting kind of destroyed by ranged units, it gives you some time to realize you're taking just a crap ton of damage and just jump back into cover, because playing around cover is incredibly important, because as soon as they pop all of those Reapers in front of you, you are basically going to die. Forms. What the heck happened, dude? This is probably the scariest unit, in my opinion, in these high-level modes. The Reaper is called a Reaper for a reason. You will die if you're not playing around cover, or if you don't have a team comp that helps support you with shields, and that's why bubbles are so strong. But going back to the matter at hand here, is that toughness grace period, once you get up to the 1, 2, 3 levels, oof, you need to be careful. As soon as you peek out there without any shields whatsoever, you're donezo. You are actually donezo. Now, cranial corruption is just where their tentacles are coming out of the heads. You shoot them, it explodes, so pretty cool. Blight spreads is also a fairly freaking good modifier as well, because this kind of forces you to play a specific team comp with the Zealot class, so you have to make sure you have the right nodes for it. Plus, hardened skin makes enemies just a lot tougher, and this is where the Psyker is going to come in clutch. Especially, the Psyker will be able to crowd control really well. You're going to need a Psyker, period. Without the Psyker, you're going to have a pretty rough time against hordes. When you get up to the higher tiers as well, you will be having reduced ammo pickups. And every time you pick up an ammo, usually you'd get like a certain amount beforehand, but now they're just reducing it over and over and over again until eventually you only pick up like 5 bullets every single time, and it's absolutely atrocious. And that is why it's so important that there's only one specific character, one specific class that is going to be getting ammo and using it the entire game. The rest of the class will focus on melee, crowd control, protecting the teammates, and all of that good stuff. Basically, it's just overall a buff to every single enemy, faster spawn rates, more special special spawns, more bosses, captains on every single specific area that you will pass. You can't not fight the captains. You'll probably see them every single game. And those are the modifiers that you will have to build your team comp around. There is not just one team that will be able to handle all of this. There are multiple team comps that will deal with every single situation that the modifiers will throw at you, and that is why you have to coordinate your team efficiently. Otherwise, if you make one bad play, pretty much everything just spirals out of control. Losing one teammate is detrimental to the entire game. I'm not saying you can't clutch it, because you definitely can, but if you play things perfectly in the beginning, you won't have as much issues. If you're not going to coordinate or even give certain shoutouts to your team, you're gonna have a really bad time, such as when I decide to pick Ogryn. I have a shield, and I guarantee you probably should only be running shield with the Ogryn, because you have to block those ranged units. You can also definitely run the pickaxe, but mind you, this requires a specific comp, because if you don't have shields, if you don't have toughness to bum rush the horde, you have to kind of just sit back and wait for those bubbles, because you have no way to defend yourself, and you're a pretty freaking big target. My main role is to crowd control, taunt, and push away the bursters as much as possible, while my teammates focus on literally everything else. Crowd controlling, taunting with the shield on Ogryn, incredibly helpful, and you have to be aware of your positioning to the highest degree. Now, when we started on 16, it was fairly easy. You could run whatever build you wanted, just the classic veteran shout, maybe in just 2 veteran shouts, which is fairly important. Psyker Flamestaff, Psyker anything, Ogryns, whatever you wanted to, even the Zealot with the great sword, the relic sword that he has right now, running chorus or even stealth, everything worked perfectly fine. It was just a typical damnation orc run, in my opinion. If you failed one of these, you were practically already throwing, and it wasn't really hard to do that. Failing at level 16 would mean that you weren't necessarily ready for what is going to come, because I can guarantee you, if you weren't paying attention and calling out specials, especially the pox bursters or the trappers, you were just going to D-rank every single time. Mind you, if you failed 3 times, you would be demoted down to the next level, and when the week starts again, you'd start there. So it's kind of a letdown if you do decide to throw for your teams, because not everyone has that many opportunities. I started off with the Relic Blade on my Zealot because that was the first class I wanted to try out in level 16, and the Flamer as well. The Flamer is just overall a great tool in this Havoc mode, because it just deals with a ton of enemies, especially if you decide to have another Flamer in your team with the Psyker. It's just extra crowd control. And as for the Relic Blade, I didn't necessarily know what to run with it, because it first just came out, but obviously I went with Flak and Maniac at the time, and my previous blessings beforehand wasn't Rampage and Energy Leakage. This is the one you've been using, so it only occurs every 8 seconds, gains 10% attack speed for 3 seconds on perfect block. If you perfect block this, you just get 10% more attack speed for 3 seconds, so that means you have about 5 more seconds of just downtime, and I feel like that's a lot of time, especially in horde situations and special situations. You're gonna need those 5 seconds. And so weak spot kills and critical strikes kills reduce heat by 10 seconds over 3 seconds. I'm not gonna say that's a bad thing, but I also went with cranial grounding, reduces heat buildup by 6% and increases weak spot damage by 4% for 3 seconds on chained weak spot hits, stacks 5 times. So 20% damage on weak spot hits, which is fairly nice, but I didn't find this to be that helpful because I wanted to be in heat. Ayo, I wanted more damage overall. It's just a little bit more simpler in my opinion. And so that is why I just opt out for Rampage. Hitting at least 3 enemies on attack increases your damage by 36 seconds for 3 seconds. Just having more damage overall, because this weapon was fairly strong when it came to crowd control and single damage hits. It was the MKX. This is the first variant of the Relic Blade. And then I decided to use Energy Leakage, increasing my strength up more for 20% scaled on heat. And I'm always using my special attack for this, and I'm always going to be at high percent heat anyways. And so just being able to go in between that and get more damage overall, I felt like it was a little bit better compared to just being able to utilize your special attack much faster every so often, because you already had high damage when you were scaled on heat anyways, so it didn't matter too much at the end of the day. There's also people who can use and opt out for the higher cleave, which is really nice. 50% cleave on hit, stacks 5 times, means that you can essentially just clear through a ton of enemies after hitting them many times. So this is really good too, because there's a ton of hordes. Like I said, once you get up to the 30s and 40 levels of Havoc mode, there are just tons and tons of spawns of enemies coming at you much quicker than Auric Maelstrom, mind you, so you had to be able to deal a lot of damage if you're using the Relic Blade, and the Relic Blade is a fairly strong weapon for the Zealot class. And as you can see here, I went with Flak and Maniac at the time, but I really don't think this one is the go-to, especially in Havoc. You are going to want to be able to kill bosses and deal as much damage as possible. So Flak, there's always Flak around you, but Unyielding, those are the boss enemies. Those are the very big Ogryns to deal damage onto their faces, and having Rampage and Energy Leakage just increases my damage overall, and I prefer this right now. But if there's any better builds you guys have adapted to, let me know down in the comments. As for my cures, I did stay with 20% max health, plus 3 stamina, and 17% toughness. And as you can see here, I do have stamina regeneration on every single cures. You absolutely need this in my opinion. You have to be pushing and helping your teammates as much as possible. I put in a block efficiency there just to help it so that I could block certain attacks or bosses at certain times, and I felt like this was fairly useful still. For my Zealot build in the beginning, it felt like Blades of Faith was doing just fine. I will warn you though, when you start to fight the higher levels of enemies that are starting to get Nurgle's Blessings, your Blades of Faith, it's going to take at least 2 of those daggers to kill an enemy, so you need to be very wary of that. So you might have to opt out for Stun Grenade or even the Immolation Grenade, which are both great nades to be using. Always have to be using Until Death and Holy Revenant. You need this build on pretty much every single Zealot build, and you don't necessarily need to go Loner. You probably shouldn't go Loner as well. This is just one of my other builds that I do use. Instead, you should opt out for the Beacon of Purity, as if you do have the Blight Spreads, you're gonna have to run this build. Every Zealot or one of the Zealots will have to use this one because it heals all the corruptions that you will be getting, because as soon as you walk on the blight on the floor, you'll pretty much start gaining them, and pox bursers will blow up in your face. There's gonna be a ton of pox bursers, so you have to be very careful. The chorus is gonna exponentially give you so much value, and if you're gonna opt out for Fury of the Faithful, you're gonna have to make sure that you can deal a crap ton of damage. I don't necessarily recommend this build in my opinion. I would rather have way more chorus and way more shields, especially during pox bursters and healing moments. Like I said, if you're in a clutch situation and you're by yourself or you're just with one other person, I don't think Fury of the Faithful is gonna help you as much as stunning them for a very long period of time. This is way more beneficial, and you can get this back incredibly quickly. I would recommend Chorus a lot more so than Fury, due to just being able to get this back so quickly due to Blazing Piety and being able to give your teammates buffs and allow your teammates to recover, healing a person that is down, which is fairly important. I think there's so many times where players are going to go down, especially if you're not playing perfectly, which nobody is going to be playing perfectly, and that's okay. I really don't think stealth is going to be super beneficial in this mode, because it's more of a very selfish pick, and you want to try to do as much damage as possible on a boss or just a backstab and whatnot. But in this situations, you guys are always going to be together. You're not going to be separated. You're going to want to stick together and help crowd control and look out for enemies. The Zealot class is supposed to be a little bit up in front and dealing a lot of the damage, but with the Shroud Field, you're kind of just relying on this to escape, and you don't really want to be doing that. You kind of want to be taking the front and the brunt of everything, because if there's no one to protect your Psychers, you're kind of screwed. Some weapons that I would recommend for the Zealot is obviously the Relic Blade. I would also recommend using the Combat Knife, as this weapon is incredibly strong, great for crowd control, deals a lot of damage overall. The Crusher is obviously just a fan favorite as well. You should also use the Dueling Sword, as this weapon is fairly meta. You can pretty much kill any single enemy you wanted to, and with the fast thrust attacks, you just can't go wrong with this weapon. This is probably the best weapon for the Zealot class at the moment, but the Relic Sword, I just have so much fun with it that I just can't not use it. And as for your ranged weaponry, I think you should always go with the Flamer, because this is probably going to be the best crowd control weapon. Your veteran class is probably going to be trying to use as much ammo as possible. Bolt Pistol, even the Stub Revolver, these weapons are going to be very strong hitters, but you want to just kind of reserve everything for crowd control on the Flamer, just in case you do kind of get stuck with one of the bosses, such as the Nurgle, where he just walks around everywhere. You may or may not have enough time to try to backshot it, so you just want to deal as much damage with the Flamer as possible, and I feel like that's fairly helpful. And emptying your mag with the bolt gun is obviously a fine choice too, but you remember it's just a little bit slower, and you will run out of ammo pretty quickly if you start doing that. And as soon as we started getting into level 30s or so, I decided to change my class and use a different one, just because Zealot was not necessarily cutting it, but I wanted to change class just to see how it felt and I went with the Veteran, of course, one of my favorite classes. I think it is my favorite class. And we went for the meta weapon, Dueling Sword, Flak, and Maniac. I went with Agile to increase my dodge efficiency to make me pretty much a melee character. Remember, this class can be utilizing a lot of melee and range weaponry very efficiently. And I went with Riposte to give me more crit chance on a lot of dodges, because there's going to be so much enemies coming at you and you're going to be dodge spamming. I went with the Plasma Gun to deal as much damage as possible and have a pretty decent ammo count. Now, mind you, once you get to the level 40s or so, high 30s, you will not be one-shotting the snipers if they do have Nurgle's Blessing. So you have to do 2 shots or maybe 3, depends on your charge rate. I should increase my thermal resistance because this would help me, and maybe lower my charge rate, which is what I should have done, but I'll make a new weapon later on. But the Plasma Gun, even though for how strong it really is, you're not going to be one-shotting anymore. So keep that in mind. I went with double toughness and +3 stamina. I think stamina is fairly important. I don't think you can necessarily, you can run without stamina, but you're going to be kind of a detriment in a lot of certain cases where you do just kind of get swarmed, and you're going to get swarmed 24/7. The build that I would personally recommend, you can use crack grenades or shredder grenades. I think shredder grenades would probably work out a lot better for most players, but I went with crack grenade and it worked just fine.
You know what would be a good time right now? You know what would be good for this right now?
What?
Shredder frag grenades.
Not wrong.
So you can prioritize those crushers, but shredder grenades have a lot of beneficial results with your teammates because it does more crowd control. Now, for my first build, I did opt out for close and kill, which gives us +5 movement speed for everybody. However, I started to run out of ammo very, very quickly, and I realized that we do need at least 1 survivalist. So if you're not running 2 vets, if you're running 2 vets, 1 can go close and kill, 1 can go survivalist to make you guys move faster. But I changed my build afterwards and went with survivalist, and I still kept the crack grenades, which worked just fine. Recovering your grenades every single second, and you have to use voice of command. Do not use any other node. I guarantee you will lose. I mean, if you're running Executioner Stance and you're amazing at the game, I think you can do it, because we did have an Executioner Stance veteran while I used the Voice of Command, and I got this back within like every freaking 10 seconds. So Voice of Command is great if you have an amazing veteran that with Executioner Stance to shoot down the other specials out there. But I would always recommend, if you do have 2 veterans, go both Voice of Command and don't use only a Deathless Duty End, because you want this up constantly, absolutely constantly. There are so many pox bursters and specials and dogs and hordes coming that you need that, in my opinion. And of course, I went with the weapon specialist because this is going to be where Havoc just throws tons of enemies at you, and you want to be able to reload as quickly as possible without having to swap to your weapons 24/7. So being able to swap my weapon and getting my ammo back after a kill is very beneficial, especially with the big plasma gun, which deals a lot of damage. And I went with duck and dive because there is so much range attacks coming at you that you need to be able to get your stamina back if you do get into a close situation with a horde or an enemy that is fairly strong. A lot of ragers come up in between with the horde, so you have to be able to block and have your teammates assist you in that matter and be able to dodge and charge your heavy attack to land those very sweet headshots. And overall, it's just the basic stuff right here. Demolition Team, you kind of need Demolition Team, really powerful stuff, tactical awareness, and you don't need more ammo because you are basically going to be the only character picking up ammos anyways. And so having this is not it's not the most important thing ever, but personally I really like Iron Will. Like I said before, a lot of pox bursters, a lot of things just exploding in your face, so having 50% reduced toughness if you're above 75% toughness is really helpful, in my opinion. You're always going to be above and beyond, and it's going to make it so that you're not going to take any health damage if you do get hit by a pox burster.
Oh my god.
Oh shit, he's coming fast as fuck! I didn't even see, oh shit. I didn't even see him. Yeah, I didn't, he was barely green. I thought he had to be.
Oh shit.
Those shotgunners, what the fuck?
That's a lot of mutants that just rangers that 2-shot me. Hold on. We're gonna keep it all chill right here. We're all chill, we're chilling.
Bad luck or no skill. Other weapons you could run would be Combat Blade, the Shock Maul also would be a fantastic weapon, and of course the Power Sword will just do you justice. Those are the weapons that I've seen the veterans that in my team have been using. If you have any other crazy weapons that would be decent at the higher levels of Havoc, let me know. I'm sure the Shovel would do just fine too, especially the variation that would allow you to get a little bit more damage on the special attack. But when it comes to the range weaponry, Plasma gun, revolver, and the las gun rifles are pretty much going to be your best bet. I would not run necessarily any of the other auto guns because they're not going to do as much damage that you need. I wonder if there's a crazy build you could do with the the auto gun that would work well, but I don't think this weapon is that great in general unless you're running executioner stance. A bolt pistol and the revolver and the las gun, these are the guns that will help kill specials as fast as possible while also melting bosses if you need them to. And when we started reaching the level 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40 levels, which is pretty much the end game of Havoc modes with crazy modifiers, I decided to switch to Ogryn, and I wanted to see if Ogryn could handle all the nonsense that was being thrown at us. I think Ogryn is a fairly strong character, but comparative to the rest of the class, I think he gets outshined a little bit more so than everybody. His ranged weaponry is not as strong, even though they gave him a new heavy stubber. It's slow to swap to, and it doesn't deal as much damage comparative to, you know, two-shotting with a revolver, which is fast as heck. And so he's a little bit disadvantaged, but he does get a shield, and the shield is king. Now, if you guys haven't seen my build on the Ogi Bear beforehand, this is what I used for Havoc level 40, completing it. Feel no pain, it just gives you so much frontline presence that I think you can pretty much tank 90% of the things. I will say though, if you're not careful with your stamina and your positioning, you will die with him. You will die. I think you're better off just playing a veteran class, in my opinion, having 2 veterans, and you don't need the Ogryn per se, but the Ogryn overall is really good at crowd controlling, and this is my taunt build. The taunt build is incredibly important because when I'm pushing them, it stuns them for 8 seconds, and you have the ability to just stagger enemies all over. I am push spamming. I'm push spamming because I can get my feel no pain stacks, which is really strong, gives me more damage reduction and toughness replenishment, which is really great. And then being a shield allows me to block a lot of enemies. As you can see here, I did not go for any damage whatsoever on my perk setups. The only damage I have is plus 25% damage on maniacs, and then plus 20% block efficiency. When I'm blocking bosses, any of the bosses whatsoever, they deal 0 stamina damage to me, which is great. You will feel like an absolute tank. And I went with Opportunist, 25% running on staggered enemies. Most enemies are going to be staggered, so you're going to be doing a lot of armor piercing with your shield. It's not going to be much, but it's going to make a difference in my opinion. And then last guard, if the enemies do break my guard, it pushes them all away, and it's pretty decent. You also get minus 30% block cost, which is insane. So that's why the enemies can barely break my guard. And if I do run out of stamina, it's because I've been push spamming, and you can kind of watch out for your stamina in general, but overall you should be fine. I went with plus 3 stamina and plus 3 stamina, so it's plus 6 stamina total. Combat ability regeneration, stamina regeneration, and block efficiency. So we are just overloading on block efficiency and stamina regeneration, and a little bit of toughness there to help out with the shields. And so this is what I would like to run. I have 11 bars of stamina or 13 bars of stamina to push and shove all the enemies away. Most of my teammates are going to be fairly safe. I will be the main priority target when the enemies are coming towards me. All the ragers that sneak in, those are probably one of the deadliest characters in the horde, so I'm pushing them. I'm making so that they all get staggered, so my teammates can one-shot them with dueling swords, or the flamer staff can burn them all to death. All the heretics have no chance against my Ogryn because I'll just be able to block and shove them all pretty much the entire time. I have to make sure though that my teammates can take out the specials from far away, and I have to call them out. Taking out the Reapers is priority, taking out the Bombers is also priority as well. Good time, honestly. I'm gonna do it. Wait, someone already did it.
Don't worry, I got it.
Just keep jump spamming.
I have
Good shit,
macro
good
done on it.
What now?
Macro.
Macro?
What?
Yeah.
Cheater.
You're cheating! Someone kick him from the group.
Bro, we need every help we can
No,
get.
we did not. We can do this without any AI. You can also opt out for Loyal Protector if you wanted to, but I prefer being able to get out of dodge if there is a specific enemy that I need to take out, as Loyal Protector has a fairly large range, especially if you have this node, which is plus 50% radius. However, Indomitable just goes so much farther, increases, gives you bleed, and gives you a little bit more damage. Depending on which one you opt out for, you can do bleed, or you can do a little bit more damage, and it stacks 25 times depending on how much enemies you hit. But I feel like Indomitable is just a little bit bit better because you can push enemies down and make it so that you can position better with yourself and your team as well. So if you wanted your entire team to go to somewhere else that's a lot safer due to a lot of Reapers or Bombers coming at you guys, you can call that out and be like, okay guys, I'm going to run forward, charge forward, and you guys have to follow me because I do have the speed boost right here. On activating your combat ability, you and your allies in coherency gain plus 20% movement speed and are also immune to stuns and a suppression for 4 seconds. So if you call that out, your teammates can get out of dodge and reposition very quickly. If you don't call that out, it's pretty much useless and you can do anything else. But I feel like if you call this out, that movement speed, you do run very quickly. You do run really quickly and can get into a different cover at a much quicker time than just telling your team, oh wait, let's move while I shove spam. And I feel like this is very helpful because you're getting this back incredibly quickly. It's only 30% base cooldown, and with all of your curio stacks, you'll probably get it within like 20 seconds. So it's fairly helpful. Yeah, we can't get him. It's literally impossible unless you have a shield again. We can get the res right after this. Oh wait, no, let's not. There's snipers down there. I literally see like 3 snipers. Okay, we can run down there now. I'll just use my my ability. Go. If the Psyker is running, the 10% cooldown reduction, incredibly strong in my opinion. But Feel No Pain is, I think it's much better than using Heavy Hitter, so you can tank everything and you can frontline everything. But if you feel like you can tank better without taking any damage, I feel like Heavy Lifter or Heavy Hitter would do just fine too. But I would say that you should never ever run Point Blank Barrage. I don't think this is gonna be a good node to use because you should not be the main ranged weaponry anyways. You're not going to be taking out specials. You are supposed to be frontlining and making it so that your teammate can survive. So never run this build and never go towards any of the right side. Here, unfortunately, it's just not something you can use in Havoc. The Havoc modes are meta builds or builds that can synergize with your teammates, and having the ranged damage in general is not that great for Ogryn, even though you got a new weapon. It's just that not that appealing in Havoc mode. You just want someone to frontline. And I do have the Frag Bomb. You could run Bombs Away or the Rock. Both of these are very good, but I personally like the Frag Grenade just in case we do get swarmed with a ton of Crushers and Ragers that need to be dealt with ASAP. And with those 3 specific builds, I was finally able to achieve level 40 with my team. I played with about 6 or 7 different individuals, and we managed to get all the way through there. I think it was quite an enjoyable experience, fairly hard, and you had to synergize and use your brain actually to think with your team. You didn't really have to do that in Quick Play or Maelstrom, any of those modes, even if the modifiers were ridiculously hard. Lights Out, one of my favorite modes, but I know a lot of people don't like that mode, and it is fairly challenging because they can't see. However, I found that really relaxing and enjoyable. When compared to Havoc mode, level 40, even 30s to 40s, I'd say it was a lot more demanding and mentally demanding. I think we had to take, a break and play some Orc Maelstrom, which is more relaxing than level 35s and up. But maybe level 30, I think once we started getting to 35 and up, it got much more complicated, more hordes, more specials, and we had to focus a lot more. If we were off synergy just for like a few seconds, I think the whole thing would just went crumbling down. And the rewards you get for it, a lot of plasteel, a lot of dockets. I hope we get more good stuff in the future, more skins, and maybe some emotes or signatures at the end of the day. I found that the signatures are really cool at the end because the Ogryn moves a lot. The other characters don't move as much, but I think that's just because the Ogryn is such a big boy, he's a big beefy man. But these are the builds that I used for the Veteran, for the Zealot, and for the Ogi. I might try Psyker one day and make another video on that. I may showcase some new builds or more challenges, or maybe doing just a solo queue Havoc mode. That'd be kind of interesting. I feel like that'd be very hard to do though, like I said before. Overall, I'll definitely try out different builds because this game mode is fairly challenging. Once you get to the higher tiers, it is incredibly hard to not get demoted if you're not playing 100% and having a really coordinated team. Now, there has been a topic that has been brought up many times on my comment sections and just on my Twitch chat or my YouTube chat, but it's quick play in Havoc. Now, quick play in Havoc essentially kind of revolves around the same idea of playing quick play in Maelstrom, where you can leave and enter whenever you want. But the difference and the complicated thing is that if you do have a quick play setting for this and you are the host, you're at a huge amount of risk, because if people are leaving or people are not playing a specific build that you need for your team comp, and you only have 3 times to demote, you are risking so much. And that could be something that you'd want to do. A lot of risk and a lot of reward and satisfaction for completing it. And that feels great. And I personally am down for that. But the thing is that Fat Shark, right now, it's kind of hard to choose your build in a quick play setting. You know how when you decide to boot up the game and load up for a game, you just can't swap your classes when you are looking at all your teammates on the loadout screen. You can look at their builds, and you can't look at their talent tree per se, but you can look at what the skill they have, what weapons they have, the perks, all their refinements, and how good their weapons are, but you can't change classes. If you see 3 veterans with Executioner's stance, which is, mind you, not the best and most optimal skill to be using, you can run it while the rest of the team has a bunch of shouts and bubbles for you to protect you, so you can maybe target some Reapers or Snipers, but you can't run 2 of them because you would automatically lose. I don't think there is any team that runs 2 Executioner stance and survives level 40. If they do, let me know. That'd be a great achievement, honestly. Honestly, I think I'm gonna have to try that challenge. I mean, you're gonna have to run 2 Executioner veterans. You're gonna be very scarce on ammo on the high difficulties, especially level 40s, but you'll need a Zealot chorus and a Psyker that has bubble to make sure you're safe, because you don't have any more toughness boost with having 2 Executioner stands. You'll have a lot of damage potential to ruin those Reapers and bosses, but other than that, you don't really have much safe defensive capabilities, and you have to be a god at fighting hordes and dodging stuff. Being able or not being able to swap your class in general is a really bad thing. Ubisoft, well, I'm gonna say Ubisoft, but Darktides should probably try to focus on that and make that a priority, because right now, without being able to swap classes, you can't really build around your team and find something that works for you guys. There's also a lot of gatekeeping in the looking for group tabs. When I was trying to get a level 35 to level 40 game with the looking for group, and I tried to apply, there were level 600s and 500s that would gatekeep me out. And the thing is that they probably weren't looking for that specific class that I was currently running. But the thing is, I would have gladly swapped to a different class to suit their needs. Fat Shark doesn't really give you that option, and you can't swap during. You'd have to actually allow them to join and then talk to them in the VC or the text. And there's just some walls that can't be overcome until Fat Shark decides to adjust those. And so right now, there's just no way to play Havoc unless you're playing with a dedicated group. And some of the randoms can be really bad, and you'll have to kick them out, and there is going to be gatekeeping, and we can't do anything about that until Fat Shark fixes these changes or implements a new system where you can change your class and communicate like so. Especially as an introverted box like myself who enjoys solo queuing and doesn't really want to talk to people all day because it just drains all of my life force away. Implementing this sort of system would be really beneficial for players like me, because I know there's players like me out there. So right now, there's no way they can necessarily make this work unless you guys have any crazy ideas. Let me know in the comments, but right now, you just kind of have to suck it up and you can't really play alone. But that's my first experience with Havoc level 40. Definitely a challenging game, and I hope we get some more challenges in the future, because as soon as we start getting used to this meta, there have been people who have completed this within 1 day. So it's kind of crazy to see how good players are and how optimized these builds can be. But let me know how your guys' experiences have been going with Havoc, and what weapons and what modifiers you guys want to see next. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. You guys have a beautiful day. Bye-bye. See you later.